Boom. Look at that. That was smooth. That was quick. That was good. Teo, was that the best intro music thing I've done so far? What do you think?
I mean, that you've done, sure, yeah.
Harsh. Joe Simon, how are you, my friend? How was your Monday? Your non-Easter Monday?
Easter feels like a long time ago now, Stoll, but I'm glad you're still in the spirit. Teo, I know a lot of things usually go wrong when the podcast is left up to just you and I, and we'll get to the Hawks later, but it is good to be back with you boys again. A very MAFFSy week.
Yes, and look, we have a special guest on the show. Vince Rigari, who do you think is tonight's special guest?
I don't know.
Any guesses?
I'm kind of amped for them because I'm really hoping for me, for you, and for everyone watching that I am not the special guest. That would be so underwhelming.
Okay, guys, guess in the comments who is the special guest. Some of you may have already got the correct answer, but it's good. Speculation is what fuels football media. All right, let's get in your wild speculation. Actually, don't do that because then I'll read it out accidentally, and then we'll get in legal troubles. And this show, surprisingly enough, despite its 15 million listeners every single week, does not actually have any lawyers. We like to keep it fast and loose.
What?
You know? Yeah. No lawyers. We couldn't find it in the budget. We had to use the money to prop up Perth Glory when Tony Sage was in charge. But anyway, it's a tough week. Read about it in the Australian. Vince, as you hear, we'll see what happens with the special guest. But I don't know. Have you seen this show before? Have you heard this show before? Are you one of the 15 million people that listen every week?
One of, and I just have to say how unsettling it is to hear the opening music at 1.0 speed as opposed to I'm usually listening at 1.2 ish, and so it just threw me off a little bit there. I'm just like, shouldn't we be getting through this a little bit quicker? But no. So it's a good show. I like it.
Do we all sound drunk now that we're on normal one speed to you?
Kind of. It's slowly
like slurring
chopped and slopped version of MAFFS,
Yeah, I'll be honest, Vince. 1.2. I feel like the 1.5 to the 1.75 range is probably about right for the MAFFS podcast. But 1.2, that's actually quite a compliment.
I'm glad.
It's more of my brain thing, I think, than a you guys thing.
Yeah,
I don't think my brain can cope with the super speed.
That's right. Sometimes our dialogue and ideas, you need to slow it down a touch just to really absorb what we're talking about.
There are some episodes where I slow it right down. I get to 0.5 because I'm just like, let me let that knowledge hit different, just let it wash over me, sort of thing.
Let us know in the comments what's the fastest you've ever listened to a next episode. Has anyone broken the 2 barrier mark? Has anyone gone past the 2? I imagine because we tend to go on a few tangents. There tends to be a few things. I myself, even when I've listened back to the show, find myself just that 10-second scroll back just to work out what was that reference that Teo just said. What was that little underneath the radar thing? That line that he just got in. There's a lot of things there. But look, a lot of people are asking, who is the special guest? Is the special guest Buzz R? I believe he's referring to Buzz Aldrin, one of the first men to be on the moon. No, he was unavailable. They also might be referring to Buzz Rothfield. He was going to be on the show, but because it wasn't held in Sydney, he was unable to make it. And he says that we could have had a potential 30 million listeners if we'd hosted it in Sydney. But alas, we're hosting it where we are. Look, Vince, there's really only, there's only one thing you need to prepare for with this show. And the question is, what time is it in New Zealand? Will you speculate?
Rollo's early bedtime is crippling this show, by the way. This whole bit is predicated on at least one of Phil Rollo or Andrew Vorman watching this show live, and they're tucked up asleep at this hour.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I'm actually not in Sydney at the moment. I'm in Adelaide, and therefore my entire time sort of sussing apparatus is thrown out of. I got no idea what time it is anywhere except here and the Eastern States is a 30-minute sort of difference. Anywhere else, don't ask me to do it.
Yeah, but Vince, is it 7:30 or 7 or 8 or 8:30 in the Eastern States? That half an hour target.
It's 8.
Oh, he's sharp. He's sharp. I reckon he's close to knowing what time it is in New Zealand.
That's the thing. I know we jest about the time in New Zealand, and we're talking about the early bedtimes, but I genuinely have no idea what. So if you know in the comments, please, what is the time in New Zealand? We need to know.
My understanding is regular commenter Daniel He lives in New Zealand, and he says just late. So I don't know.
Okay.
It's late. We don't know what time it is. Oof. It says 10:06 p.m. is late, I guess. Yeah, look, it's a good point.
That's late.
If you're just tuning in for the time, you might be thinking, is this podcast about time zones? And yes, it is. There's so many things to enjoy about this show. But look, the question that we need to know is what made Australian football fun for you this week, Vince?
All of it. Actually, for the first time, maybe in a long time, you can say like legitimately all of it, except for a couple of little things, which I'm sure we'll get to eventually. But like broadly, what a sick week. Like, to be honest, from the start, was the Preston South Melbourne thing the first thing of the week, or was there another thing before then? Because
that was Tuesday night. So like we're going back, the full week.
But like the full week, like so sick because that was unreal. Or looked unreal in the bits that I saw. Wednesday night was Tottenham Spurs, which was unreal basically until they blew the first whistle. I actually thought they should have done first of all, I can't believe they didn't play Robbie Williams' Angels the whole night. Apparently they didn't play that. Absolutely insane. Like, why would you not do that? Surely the whole point of that fixture was to get as many people inside the MCG as possible to play that game, to play that song, sorry. Anyway, they should have just let Ange walk out, let him wave for the crowd, play Angels, blow the whistle, and then, all right, guys, thanks for coming. See you later. Because that's all anyone really came for.
It might have been better after the first whistle if they'd let as many people in the ground as possible play the game.
You know what? There was a little bit of criticism for the delayed start, and Joe, you were there. I don't know how much it frustrated you, but I just thought it was a really good way to give the players that little bit extra rest. It's all about player welfare. There was criticism early on that they'd just finished a Premier League game, they got on a flight. Whoever was in charge was like, let's give them an extra 5 minutes. That's going to make sure there are no injuries, and I don't think there were.
Well, I don't think they were. Trippier did come off. I don't know if that was a precautionary thing, but we're all about time zones here. It did start late. I was thinking the same thing at the ground. I'm like, is this 7:45? Is this? I don't think they cared really. They were just like, let's let it go. But you talk about players coming over and player welfare.
By the way, I just love that we just landed back on time.
Yeah,
anyway, continue.
Every 2 minutes we go back to the time.
Time defines all.
Yeah.
Goalkeeper,
the speed that you listen to the episode to, the time in New Zealand, the time in the match. There's various elements of time, and I'm looking forward to exploring them all in this episode.
Sometimes I wish we could stop time and just have a bit of a pause or something in the podcast. As I was saying, Spurs goalkeeper Vicario, he comes over straight away. He comes over with the team. He sits on the bench. He doesn't even play. What's the point? I found that pretty bizarre.
Yeah, what? So he didn't get any minutes at all.
Well, he just got selected for Italy, so perhaps it was come over, come with the squad, hang with the fellas, come see Melbourne, check out the Graves. But we don't want, he maybe doesn't want to get injured in case there's opportunity there for him. But I thought it was pretty strange. If you're coming all the way over, surely you get a minute. They only played the one game.
He would have got like 60 status credits. He's fine.
That's true. I didn't think about the points.
Look, please keep your comments coming in because we've had an incredible amount of comments. I remember the best comment wins something that is within reach of one of our desks. So I don't know if anyone wants to potentially offer up a prize. I, of course, have a Barcelona flag that is not attached to any piece of plastic. I also have a padlock and key.
I've got some incredible prizes around me, to be honest. I'm currently at the desk. So I'm staying with my parents in Adelaide just because it makes sense. Great to spend time with my folks. And I'm in the sort of small room in which my mum, there's a lot of storage related things here. And the desk I'm sitting at right now, my mum basically does her hair at this desk. Yeah. So I have some hairspray, which useless for me, but could be good for some people. And also some Olay UV protection moisturizer. So it's like 2/3 used though. So
that's okay. That's okay. I mean, it's
better than nothing. Better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. If that doesn't promote some comments, John says need some Teo magic. He hasn't spoken yet. Teo, why are you so silent? What are you afraid to say? Have you gone low?
Let us know in the comments. Why is Teo so quiet today?
What's going on?
Guys, plenty left in the tank. It's our penultimate show of the season. I mean, we've just had the penultimate game, and now we're looking forward to the penultimate show. We have plenty more to come.
But sorry, what is the ultimate game? If this is the penultimate game,
Yeah, is there another show after this? You doing a show next week?
Wow. Okay, hopefully someone in the comments gets that. Wow. Okay.
All right.
Sorry for being the only person that's permanently online here. Jeez.
Yeah. Look, you're not the only one who's permanently or not permanently online. World of Enzo comments via Twitch. What is the YouTube channel called? Enzo, mate, do your research. All right, come on. Mate, this is the Make Australian Football Fun Society. All right, it's obvious. MAFFS. All right, you hear about MAFFS all the time. MAFFS live reaction blogs. Everyone, I'm going to watch MAFFS tonight. This is what they're talking about. This show. But look, should we talk about? I don't know, 11 minutes in. Should we talk about the grand final? I don't know. Maybe. Thoughts, Teo? Mr. Silence?
Sorry to interrupt, Teo, but in the interests of our time-focused episode so far, I'd like to stick chronological. Should we go to All Stars first? Considering I think we've all said what we need to say about Tottenham Newcastle.
Just Joe, you were there. Was it fun? Because it kind of looked shit, to be honest. With all the respect to everyone.
It's a good question, Stoll. I think you summed it up pretty well, Vince, before. I think the pregame, they did a really, really good job. And actually, this was my, if you don't mind asking me, Stoll, what my fun moment of the week was.
Joe, what time is it? No. What made Australian football fun for you this week? Go on.
All right. Yeah, as I said, Vince, I think you said it like bang on. The light show, the sounds, the compilation of Ange even scoring the penalty through to Celtic all the way through. I thought the hype video was awesome, but my fun moment, probably of the whole night, was they did a light show while the players were warming up. I'm not sure if you saw this, Vince, but Bruno Guimaraes for Newcastle was taking a shot outside the box. Literally, as soon as he struck the ball, lights went out, blacked out. I felt like I was back in Tarneed. Gone. And the keeper, like you talk about the keeper having no chance, it was pitch black. It was incredible. This got me thinking, Stoll. I feel like this might be a little something, a little idea.
Oh my God.
Lights
not
out.
Another MAFFS idea. Not the FIFA. The FIFA is hot on the phone. They've gone, okay, we've got it. This is going to be this. So what do you think? It lights out penalty shootout?
That's kind of where I'm going here. Well, you said it yourself. Like, if there was a game to get all the MAFFS rules involved, this was the one. The first half was good, first string team. And as a Spurs fan, I like seeing the youngsters come on, but I get it. It's not the most entertaining. They're all being, Brian Hill can run up and down the wing for 40 minutes. I don't think anyone really cares. But if there was a game where to get some MAFFS rules involved, this is the one. Lights out, Teo's double penalty shootout.
Yes.
Joe, if you referring to MAFFS rules there, it sounds like it's a different mashup of a different Australian reality show, almost like when we have our footy spin-off, we can call it My Australian Football Rules. So we can have MAFFS and we can have, the My Kitchen Rules. I don't know. Work in progress. We'll work on it.
So yes, very good stuff. So I was absolutely reading something, was not listening. That's terrible hosting from me. Mea culpa. I put my hand up, all right, because I take on responsibility. But Tottenham Newcastle, very odd. I will say, I did like the fact that Ange didn't seem to know that there was a penalty shootout at the end of the game. Simon Hill and Andy Harper didn't seem to know that there was I think more surprise penalty shootouts or more surprise conclusions. These friendlies are ridiculous. So let's surprise everyone. Wouldn't you be? Oh my God, golden goal. We're going to go back to that. Is there other ways to resolve
when
that?
Collingwood and Fremantle finished dead level on Friday night, not a penalty shootout to be found. Stoll. What a disgrace.
Is it just a draw in the AFL?
Yeah.
Just a draw.
See, you know what? That's the problem with AFL, mate. Too many draws. It's so boring. Like, honestly, I cannot believe it. Honestly, bro. Why don't they make the goals bigger? They get rid
of the offside rule.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take out the goalkeepers. Anyway, look, good stuff. Okay, so forget that. It was a game, and then Newcastle, owned by Saudi billionaires. And is there any other type?
Owned by Australia now, in my opinion, after Friday night. But please continue.
Yes. Okay. So this was kind of an interesting game because, Joe, did you go to this one as well, or you didn't attend this one?
I did not attend this one. I was unfortunately working that evening, so no, just the Spurs Newcastle.
But that was also the weird thing. It was a 5 p.m. kickoff, which is like
it's a little.
right?
Oh,
Again,
so
time.
good, man.
Again, time being an issue, right? 5 a.m. kickoff.
It's prime time in New Zealand, to be fair.
4:30 in Adelaide.
So I looked at the Newcastle lineup, and genuinely, apart from Garang Kuol, he was the only one I recognized. Like, I'd never heard of any. Like, I haven't watched Newcastle all that much this season, with all the respect to Newcastle. I saw Kieran Trippier was on the bench, but I thought, okay, well, let's see, this young team come out. And basically, from minute one, the A-League All-Stars absolutely shat all over them. Like, it was kind of impressive. Like, it was what I like about the A-League All-Stars, and we've talked about this in the past, is go for the kill. All right, we don't like it when you're 3-0 up and then you just kind of cruise to victory and just pass it around and ease your way through it. No, let's set records. And this was, I believe, the second biggest loss in Newcastle United history after some game that happened in 1896 when goalkeepers were only 3 feet tall and there was no offside rule, and I don't know what else was happening back in the day. Probably the lights were going out all the time. There was horses on the pitch. Who knows what was going on? But just a kind of incredible fuck you to the world from the A-League All-Stars. And I got to say, Vince, it made me proud to be an A-League All-Stars ultra.
Look, the whole thing made me absolutely just delighted. My favorite tweet from the whole week, I think it was from Sky Blue Views. Could be wrong with that, but it was something like, the A-League All-Stars without the real All-Stars who were involved in the grand final versus Newcastle United's thirds and fourths at an AFL stadium at 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon is like, there's no greater way to capture the essence of the A-League, in my opinion, than all of those factors involved at once. It was just absolutely perfect. And then I was going to say the All-Stars, but I'm going to say us, because really they are all of us. Just went, oh, that's what you're doing, is it? Well, cop some of that. Cop that. Ruthless, took the piss, and rightfully so. And it was a great day, greatest day, you might even say, in Australian football history.
You know what? It's interesting as well, because I went to the Barcelona A-League All-Star game last year, 2 years ago, whenever it was, when Garang Kuol had that kind of amazing kind of almost breakout game against Barcelona. But the reason that game was actually real fun and really good, this game was fun because the All-Stars smashed them. But the concept of kind of All-Stars v European team only really works if contractually, at least, these teams are obliged to play at least half the stars. It can be a few of the kids and whatever, but we need to see, with Barcelona, we saw Busquets, we saw Dembele, we saw
Messi.
No, Messi didn't quite make it. He'd already left the team.
Stoichkov. We saw
Romario. Kubala came out. No, of course not. But they had the stars. They had the stars. Is the point. And Ansu Fati played, and I think Ter Stegen played, and all that kind of stuff. And to see the A-League All-Stars compete with them was really exciting. And then also, for the Barca fans in the crowd, they got to see, these people that they've been seeing on TV for years and years and years. For the Newcastle fans who turned up, I hope they're now saying, well, because, you saw there was one video that went viral of the Newcastle fans saying in a strong Australian accent, what's the A-League, right? And that type of ignorance, just to smoke on that, oh man, incredible stuff. But Teo, you were there. What was the highlight of the A-League All-Star men's game for you?
So he's not here tonight because he's commentating a Preston game, which is about to kick off in 10 minutes. But myself and Josh Sidelines Parish basically had a live MAFFS in the press box. Safe to say that we find each other far more hilarious than anyone else within earshot did. I don't care. We entertained ourselves for 90 minutes, just cracking one-liners back and forth. I should have turned the voice recorder on. We could have released it as its own standalone podcast. Especially given that so many of the goals, you could say in the build-up, gee, how's the defending? And 2 seconds later, it's in the back of the net. It was that sort of a game where Newcastle were just diabolical. I think it's set a very good precedent in that other teams, if they want to, take the money on offer and try to expand their global brand, they're going to have to take it seriously. We're about to see a player in MLS win the Ballon d'Or. Maybe, just maybe, we are not that far away from a player in the A-League winning the Ballon d'Or, and this is just the little pebble in the pond that one day becomes a tsunami. and when teams are sending out their full strength teams to play not just the All-Stars but our club teams, this will be the result that made everyone sharpen up and say, well, hang on, we don't want to get internationally humiliated. And Eddie Howe, I mean, for his sake, I hope he didn't go through the Turkish embassy on the way home. Because you know this was a terrible result.
Can I offer another perspective and also jump back to? I mean, once I just get past the moral low levels that you just went through with that joke, Teo. But Stoll, what you were saying before about it's better when the European teams bring out their stars. I'm going to actually respectfully disagree and say that I think the APL should look to make this an annual fixture. And by that, I mean the European teams to be contractually obliged to bring their academy teams, and if possible, the reserves of their academy teams. Don't tell the public and make the tickets like $5 each, pack out a venue and make it like the annual self-esteem boost for Australian football. just like unleash the All-Stars against some kids in EPL jerseys.
Yeah,
and just fucking be like, yeah, how good are we?
Hey, before World Cups, teams used to organise kind of like the self-esteem boost friendly, like 3 days before. Australia would play like.
Yeah, I seem to recall Croatia doing that against us in 1998.
I mean, yeah, okay, all right. Listen, we've improved.
We've improved. We've come a long way
in 24 years. But yeah, I mean, look, and maybe that's some inspiration for Newcastle United to use this as motivation to pin up the A-League All-Stars in the dressing room and use it as motivation. But by the way, look, just on a very kind of somewhat serious note, and you guys worried a little bit about Irankunda because, man, that guy did not play like we are used to seeing him play. He did. I mean, Newcastle were atrocious, but in both games, he just didn't seem to have the confidence or the support or, I mean, look, he hasn't played with them ever before and he's come in and it's a friendly and it's the other side of the world and he hasn't been playing football very much, but I was a little bit like, oh, Garang, like, man, come on, you were so good just a year ago, basically.
Look, some players really struggle against their old teams. And
that was a good question. If he had scored, would he have celebrated? Or would he have
No, he wouldn't have. No,
he can't, sorry.
He's got respect for the All-Stars.
He would have put his hands together and said, oh, I'm sorry, A-League All-Star fans. You know, I'm one of you. I grew up supporting you. You know what I want to say? We see it a lot now in the A-Leagues. And it's a cool story, is that, and it's happening more and more. It's kind of like, I think Kolakowski was a Melbourne City fan growing up. And he went from the terrace to the field and scored in the winner. And there was a couple of players in Mariners who, were on the terrace when they won in 2013 and now are part of the team. Wouldn't you love to see that with the All-Stars? Some kid just decked out in the All-Star jersey, cheering, when we smashed Newcastle, and then 10 years later, he's in the All-Star team. Or she, it's also possible. Joe.
Well, can I just say, people are saying, the Newcastle played the reserve, they played the kids. What do you think the A-League All-Stars put out? It's not like we're playing. I know Ben Old, his name's old, but he's young. We didn't put out Vukovic, we didn't put out Jamie Young. I mean, we put out the kids here as well.
I know. That's a good point. But look, on another level, it does also show there is and I think we've been talking about this all season. It has a million problems. Definitely, we're giving them ideas every week. I don't know why they're not taking them. There's so many ways to sort it out. Water on the nets is one of the best ones from Joe. But the thing that is, I think, actually ignored a little bit this season, at least by people who aren't watching every week, is the player quality has been good. Every team this year basically had players that I wanted to watch. I'm not saying all of the players are great, but pretty much every single team had players, even Perth with Taggart and Kolakowski, and they had a really fun thing. I don't know if it's kind of bottom of the league. Western United had their issues, but like Daniel Pena, and they had some really good players as well. So I just think this is a little reminder of, and there's a lot of kind of negativity. And I think people who are casually kind of across the A-League are just like, oh, A-League, what's going on there? It's a mess. I just keep reading stories that it's out of money and da-da-da. Well, maybe, but the player quality itself is actually, I think, as high as it's ever been, maybe, despite us not having marquees.
To bring it back to that video of the Euro snobs, like those Newcastle fans who did their money, and then the Australian one who's like, oh, what's the A-League? Fucking Chuckle Brothers from that betting company. Now, I got to say, if we're going to go chips in on one gambler, I don't know if any of you have acquainted yourselves with Benny Scarf. G'day, punters. Basically, he's a plagiarist who has stolen a few ideas off other gambling websites. But the thing about him is that it's pure and it's raw because there's no gamble responsibly disclaimers. He bets 5 cents a day for every Instagram follower he has. He's betting like $7 grand a day on racehorses. His comments are just a sea of actual gamblers who hate him. I laugh every day at this guy because I don't gamble. I don't care what his horse race tips are. And I feel as though sometimes we just need to go to the blackjack table of Australian football and bet 5 cents for every Instagram follower we have, put it all on red. And you know what? I don't actually know what my point of this anecdote was, other than to say.
I think you were going to say
the Euro snobs and all the no Sharon rule and all that stuff. I mean, we've got Regari here. It's all a bit of fun, and people who go fishing for a response, they don't realize that the joke's on them because, like Vince and I think, follow Aussie rules as sincerely as any diehard football people in this country. And you know what? It doesn't affect how we cover the game. It doesn't affect how we cover football either. We can enjoy both. I think a lot of people are just incapable of that.
Yeah. I'm going to the footy on Thursday night. Port Carlton. Can't wait. It's going to be great. But
Saturday, let's be there.
Huge. Yeah. Gavin Wanganeen up against Silvani.
Retired a long time ago.
Kuda Fides. How's Kuda Fides? Is he in goal scoring form or Kuda?
Kuda Stoll actually does the Carlton biased call every now and then. So SEN will, for big games, they have just a purely biased Carlton call that's totally one-eyed, and they do it for a few games a year. I think we discussed this on MAFFS about why don't we have more bias in our commentary. Well, I mean, we didn't really have a choice with the All-Stars. They brained them 8-0. It was pretty hard to sit there and try and spin it for Newcastle as they were getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty interesting. Look, Joseph Giacconi has some ideas. A-League All-Star Weekend, NBA style, bicycle kick contest, free kick contest, state of origin, culminating in the All-Star game on the final day. Would you like to see it, Vince? A festival.
It sounds like a lot of work. I mean, we tried that. We tried that last year. We did the five-a-side thing at the entertainment quarter in Moore Park, I think, and the people voted with their feet. And by that I mean no one was there. Who cares?
Just off the top of our heads, who would win the state of origin if you only picked from domestic-based players? Is it as straight up and down as saying it would be New South Wales, or would South Australia win it because of Irankunda? Like,
I don't care. I don't care.
I kind of like it. I would love to see. Why? Because South Australia get pumped every time, or South
Australia would fucking.
I feel like Australia would actually be in the top two. Yeah,
it would be a South Australia, New South Wales. In fact, now that I think about it, Victoria would probably come dead last. So let's do it. It'll be funny.
Well, no, Tassie in the ACT. Sorry,
Tasmania would be all over.
Are we doing them? Can we have an allies?
Oh yes, Tasmania, Canberra, Northern Territory is they getting it?
Lord Howe Island.
Lord Howe Island.
Norfolk.
a lot of footballers from Norfolk. Look, I'm a fan of putting an expansion team wherever there can be, but I don't know if Norfolk Island is. I mean, we could do Australia v New Zealand. That could be one as well.
Just one last thing on the A-League All Stars.
I think we should do a Wogs versus Skips game.
Oh, that's actually would be sick.
That'd be way better.
Shirts off.
So good. Oh man, Graham Arnold.
Ethnicity of origin. Ethnicity of origin.
Perfect segue into discussing Irankunda's comments post game about just dangling the carrot of Tanzania or Burundi or maybe 5 years in Germany to get his citizenship, and then the big U-turn. I feel as though, again, not to bring up Josh Parrish. The peer pressure of him putting that on social media and having it go crazy viral was massive in then getting an admission 48 hours later that, it was always in our plans. You hear this a lot. 3-cap Caitlin Torpey was always in our plans. So it seems as though the public have got what they want, and Irankunda will hopefully be in the next Socceroo squad.
Did Josh know what he was unleashing when he put that video out? Was he trying to manipulate the squad of the Socceroos? Did Josh Sidelines Parish have that power? Do you think?
I have it on good authority that there was actually quite a bit of brinksmanship in the press conference with various people trying to horse trade what time they tweeted and what time they hit publish. So explosive were the comments that they were all trying to almost. No, they were because they had the big Oppenheimer style kaboom, and no one wanted anyone else to go early. You didn't want someone. You didn't want Buzz Rothfield stealing in and taking everyone's exclusive.
Oh man, media is so funny sometimes.
That's pretty low. Can I just say on that?
What did you make of the comments?
A cheeky little bugger, I reckon, Nesta. I've been in situations where I'm about to or am trying to interview Nesta, and I won't say by who, but one thing that's been asked of me, at least on one occasion, is can you just please not ask him about his eligibility situation, because I think he's been wanting to press the button for a while on that and unleash it. But I got to say, and people can believe what they want, but I had genuinely heard like a week or two ago that he was going to get picked in the Socceroos squad. So people can draw their own conclusions based on what happened and all that sort of stuff. But like, it was out there very much that he was going to get picked. And in fact, I got told the other day that he got told he was either going to get picked in the Socceroos, or if he wasn't, that he was going to go away with the under-20s, which he probably would have knocked back, to be honest. He deserves to be in the Socceroos, but it's just good that he's finally in the Socceroos, not as a train-on player, but get him in there, let him settle, let everyone sort of get to know him a little bit better, understand how they're going to manage him because he's a different personality, and just let the kid cook.
But the burning question
is, exactly.
How is it going to affect the funding for our Centre of Excellence, and where are we going to put it? Are we going to have a Centre of Excellence? Is it going to be within 3 hours drive of a metropolitan airport, or is it going to be in Orange?
No, it's gonna be a farm. We told you, to get cattle, you need a farm. All right, this is the national team.
Well, the farm needs an airstrip, Stoll. I mean, they're not going to come back to Australia and get off the plane at Kingsford Smith and then go on a 4-hour drive.
I mean, Macarthur, they got a farm out in Macarthur Bulls area.
Didn't we? I know we're trying to ban live exports, but what about if we ban live imports? That's going to make it difficult.
Can I quickly just say on this Irankunda saga,
Yes.
It's made me think, because on MAFFS throughout the year, we've been talking about who we would like to naturalise. Any foreigners that we thought playing in the A-League, you know what, we can get them as a Socceroo Guernsey. I wonder if there's a TAFS out there, a Tanzanian, hang on, I've done that wrong, a Tanzanian Football Fund Society podcast. And they're like, you know what, there's this guy Irankunda in the A-League. He's not getting capped by his country. I reckon we could bring him in.
Do you think they're also talking about cattle farms?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they've got the cattle and they don't need him.
They're asking,
on Saturday night,
the time in Burundi?
On Saturday night, I reckon there was a WhatsApp chat. There was a WhatsApp chat going, Ryan Edmondson, we've got a 6-month head start. Germany, he hasn't stepped foot there. They're 6 months behind on Irankunda. We've got a 6-month head start on Edmondson.
You know what? We were genuinely close to the Villa being naturalised for the Socceroos, and now that's off the table. So, thanks to that random South American guy betting on yellow cards. So really did us a solid with that. So
I think the random South American guy who did us a solid is Lucas Paquetá, because it's actually put in context what a wide, everyone's like, A-League's Day of Shame. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's happening in the biggest league in the world.
But again, we did it first. So it just shows the A-League is ahead of the curve. Once again, we're ahead of it on VAR, ref cam, whatever else we're doing. We're just, I think we're the league that's the trend-setting league, I'd say.
Yeah,
absolutely, we are, Stoll.
Does anyone want to say anything about the A-League women's game other than every year in the EJ Whitten Legends game, they have players that are only recently retired, and they take it all.
What the EJ Whitten Legend game is?
They take it all a little bit too seriously. They don't realize it's an exhibition, and you're meant to have fun. I think Jonas Eideval came to Australia genuinely under the pump about releasing Vivian Miedemar on a free transfer, getting booed by the crowd every time they put him up on the big screen, and he thought, shit, I need to win this game. Let's pass the All-Stars to death. Let's not do anything fun. Let's score from a cross and a header. I got to say, I was expecting the Harlem Globetrotters. I thought we were going to get YOLO football, free-flowing attacking, and instead Arsenal came out and played it as straight up and down and as sincerely, we need to win this game because basically the coach needed to win. And I wish there had just been a bit more dare and a little bit more of a carefree attitude in the game. Hey, it didn't stop 40,000 fans having fun. There were people in tears during the walkout. Never mind when they were getting the selfies and the autographs at full time. So I think the crowd had fun, and really that's what matters.
And anyone tuning into the broadcast had fun because you're the voice of Australian football fun, my friends.
Well, it got a bigger audience than usual, which brought out a few more haters than usual.
I listen to them.
Any of our favorites?
Got to say though, my dad sent me a text saying he enjoyed the game, and I got to say that's sussball knowledge from the old man because it was a bit of a chore. It was a bit of a chore. So, other than that, I did have fun. And look, as someone who was hoping for a 3-3 draw and sort of a crazy game, at least we got to see some very talented players. And the thing that I want to commend, no one slipped over on that marble surface. Whatever they did, whatever voodoo they pulled during the week, it may have looked like shit, but it played incredibly well.
Kind of like this podcast in a way. Not the highest production values, but my God, it plays well. It was a very nice tribute to Lydia Williams as she came off. So, that's also a good use, I think, of the All-Star thing. Maybe we should have had Broxham come on for the All-Stars.
Well, I think the reality for the Matildas is a lot of these players, like think about after the 2006 World Cup or after the 2014 World Cup, where we've had designated Socceroos friendlies to say goodbye to legends. I just don't think it's going to work out like that with the timing for a lot of these Matildas. Never mind that it's a little bit like the Australian cricket team sort of at the end of the 90s into the 2000s, where guys who started out basically, playing for, a pat on the back in the Sheffield Shield are retiring just as the full-time professionals are starting to sign 6-figure contracts. And so obviously a lot of them held on and clung on and had to be tapped on the shoulder rather than going out on their own terms. And I just wonder if players who were legitimately paying to play at the start of their career might be feeling the same way about, well, the right time to retire is when I've wrung every last, drop of sweat out of my body, now that I'm going to be paid exponentially more than I did when I started out.
Yeah. Alan Riley says, Jonas getting booed warmed my heart. So, a lot of people had fun with the A-League All-Stars, men and women. Joe, just want to move on?
Well, can I ask you, Taylor? I don't want to bring it up, but listen, Hannah Wilkinson had a very late chance to score. I didn't see it because there was a million seagulls in front of the television. I could just see a sea of white and your voice, Teo. Is it you're commentating these games, you're trying to be professional. Did you just want to say, can you all fuck off to the Seagulls? Because I could not see a thing at that chance.
Put it this way. Of all the things to complain about, the Seagulls is harmless. I am waiting for a member of the Australian women's football media to go and do the deep dive study on how Caitlin Clark has started in the WNBA and the whole culture war that has set off, and bring that here to Australia. And it is going to be so toxic and awful. I nearly named who I think will be the $1 favorite to do it. I won't do that, but I wish you all the best. But no, if you're going to complain about the Seagulls, that is child's play compared to some of the stupid shit we get week to week. Good luck.
I know you're above that, Teo, but you must have been tempted.
No, can I be perfectly honest with you? I've done enough games where Melbourne City was the home team at Amy Park to not genuinely not notice the Seagulls and not have it interrupt my experience. I know the viewers felt very differently.
White noise, white pictures. Incredible. Look, guys, 40 minutes into the show, should we talk about the A-League Grand Final? The game that stops the nation.
Sure did.
Speaking of the game that stops the nation, I did mention earlier that Josh sidelines Parish as I freeze my computer. Is currently commentating the Preston Lions. They are taking on Melbourne Victory as we speak, and as you can see there, if we just hide the footer there at the base of the page so you can see the entire photo, there you go. That's MAFFS, and that's me on my second screen enjoying Preston Lions taking on Melbourne Victory with Josh behind the microphone. So Everyone's multitasking at the moment.
Can you give us a score update?
It is 0-0 after 10 minutes.
Mate,
Good stuff.
boring. It's not even A-League All-Stars Newcastle level excitement. Look, I tell you what was kind of interesting. I mean, many things were interesting to me about Central Coast 2, Melbourne Victory 1.
3, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, it was 3. Oh, mate, get the score right. Come on. There was a late goal in extra time. So, mea culpa, once again. I put my hand up. I'm multitasking. I'm watching the Preston Lions game with Victory. That's fun.
0-0.
Yeah, 0-0. Still 0-0. But tune in. My point was that until the 90th minute, the Mariners hadn't basically had a shot, I think, on target. They had created nothing. It really looked like the story of this game was going to be poppable in the most poppable way, breaks the hoodoo. And it, like, you know, it was, I don't know, Vince, were you doing a live report and you had kind of that was the headline already, Popper breaks the hoodoo, poppable special. And then for it to turn around the way it did in the most spectacular of ways, it kind of summed up the Mariners on the brink of death. They survived. Like your story said, they almost went broke like 4 or 5 times. They almost moved to North Sydney. Manchester United was almost involved. That would have been the worst thing for them. Mariners.
Remember the rumor? There was the one story about how they wanted to relocate them to Sydney and become like a Chinese marketed to the Chinese community of Australia. I don't know.
It's Dragons.
Yeah, which I think they should still try that. To be honest, maybe don't relocate the Mariners to do it. Yeah.
I don't remember that, but I will say the one other thing, just on a related note, that was in my story, Stoll, was that they were almost called the Pacific Storm, I think. They were almost given a generic name, which could have left them open to potential relocation elsewhere down the East Coast. And thank God they weren't, because how good, like just unreal, to be honest. The whole Mariners thing. I was doing a live blog on Saturday night as well, Stoll, so I didn't my brain wasn't in the space where I was thinking about potential headlines, starts of stories or whatever. I was just like watching shit and I was just like, yeah, okay, yeah. But they were terrible for 90 minutes, which is a good Pacific Thunder. There you go. Thanks, Spax OCE. Appreciate that. Like that's why you should never leave a game early, ever. Which is not to break the no staring rule again, but my dad made that mistake the other day when Port played Hawthorn. And we made the greatest comeback of all time. Well, not of all time, but we were like getting smashed.
Vince,
and then, sorry.
I know you're our guest, but let's not violate the no sharing rule, please.
You have to
Move
be careful.
Please. Anyway, my dad left, and my sister sent me a photo after the game. We won by 1 point, and he was so angry. And it's just like you should just never leave a game early, ever. I don't care if you're going to beat the traffic or whatever you think you're going to do.
1-0 Preston.
Well, I'm sure the people at that game already. I was going to say the people at that game are glad they haven't left. I guess after 20 minutes or whatever.
Exactly.
But like nobody should ever make that mistake because everything that happened after the 90th minute was sick. And as you said, so great summary of just what the Mariners are. The little club that could, the little club that probably should be dead, the little club that was almost stillborn, but just like pulled it out of the fire, and it was just like the coolest like night ever for the like you just can't help but feel like so heartwarming for the Mariners, and like everything that region, I guess that like no one knew about that region really. I don't know about any of the non-New South Wales people in this podcast, but like when the A-League teams got announced in 2004 or whatever, 2005, I was like an Adelaide schoolboy, and I was like, the Central Coast, is that like next to the Gold Coast? Do they have all the coasts together? I had no idea where it was. Literally,
the only thing I knew, Vince, was from Football Manager and Jess Van Stratton, who was still doing his grand tour of being a third-choice Juve goalkeeper, occasionally out on loan in the lower divisions of Italy. In his player history, one of his teams, his original team, was the Central Coast Coasties. And that's the only, literally,
that's what they should have been called.
The only, well, I think that team is still in existence, but that's literally the only thing I knew about them.
I honestly believe that one of the reasons that they were created was because it was close to Sydney, and that was convenient for TV production and all those kind of like it was kind of just easy. Okay, we'll just put a team there, and that will just.
There was another reason.
Yes.
The other reason was that John Singleton, the famous Australian businessman, ad guy, or whatever, had the management rights for the stadium at the time, and he was also on the board of the ASA, the body that Frank Lowy created when the old Soccer Australia went bust. Like, he was on the board, Frank Lowy and someone else initially. So it was a case of literally, I'm on the board. I got the stadium over here. We're looking for a team. I think they got a sweetheart deal to play out of there initially. So like, there's almost like an accidental football club in a way.
If you haven't, go and check out Vince's story. Sorry,
where was the owner of Perry Park when we were setting up A-League franchises there?
I was gonna say, go read Vince's story if you haven't. About it was prior to the final. Yeah, it was on the Saturday morning. Yeah, and it was a really good read into the history of the Mariners and, like you were saying, kind of all the different ways that it changed. Someone was just saying about if they were to be owned. Kind of marketed to the Chinese community, they could put the soy and oyster sauce bottles at the end of the pitch. Wow. Also, part of their history. Do you remember when Harry Redknapp got involved? And he unfortunately called them the South Coast Mariners. So it wasn't only, but hopefully now around the world, people know where the Central Coast is. It's funny, like when I was growing up, the Central Coast was just a small kind of regional area that was pretty like working class and kind of known, I think, for being a bit like rough, and now it's like, $4 million houses in Terrigal and the place where people move to get out of Sydney and all that kind of stuff. So
just before we get into anything else about the game, though, like every time I go
anything about the game,
every time I go to a Mariners game in person in Gosford, Vince, you may have felt the same way. I see the vision. I see the vision of what they were thinking. We're going to get rid of the ethnic teams, and we're going to move to the most bogan part of Australia, and everyone's just going to look the same, and we're not going to deviate from the norm whatsoever.
I will say, sorry, Tayo, you got more to say, or I'll just cut you off and jump into my own shit. I was just going to say
that has been my experience in Gosford when I've gone there. Yes.
So I only went there for the first time like a year ago or a year and a bit ago or whatever, which is crazy, like a criminal by me. Anyway, I remember the first time I went there, I was just absolutely blown away by how freaking beautiful the place is. And I mean the stadium only, not that everything else isn't beautiful, but I'm just talking specifically about you rock up and it's like, oh, Jesus, that's where the ground is? Like, holy
next
shit.
to the train line. Like, that's also one of the things. Is like you get a train from Central Station in Sydney. It's relatively quick. I think you can get there in like an hour and a bit to Gosford Station. And then it's a 5-minute walk from the station.
Beautiful train line. Like you go through the mangroves. And it is.
I was talking more about the the beautiful palm trees and scenery as opposed to the public transport, but I appreciate the point.
Just saying.
But like, yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I'm a bit of a train nerd at heart, to be honest. Like, I suppress that part of me. But like, every now and then on Twitter, you'll see something go viral. Like, look at the FC Como Stadium. Isn't this crazy? Or you'll see like those stadiums in like Iceland where it's like a cliff and someone's carved a football stadium out of a cliff, and it's just like, wow. It's like I don't know if we make enough of the fact that if you put this stadium on a postcard and showed it to literally anyone anywhere around the world, they'd be like, holy shit, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's probably old hat for people up there now. They go there every week and all that. But like, it's really, really freaking beautiful. And if you haven't been there in person, you might not appreciate it, is all I'm saying.
All right. So
got some good times.
Yeah, this is sponsored by the Central Coast Tourism Authority. We are taking money. Joe, should we talk about the game at all? Was there anything from the game?
I'd like to hear more about the city of Gosford and the cafes. Maybe no.
What's the time zone there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I'm not sure. No, we should talk about the game.
Once the game went to extra time, did anyone think Melbourne Victory was going to hold on for penalties, which I imagine was the only way they were going to win?
It was, you know what, I will say as well, and one thing about Victory, like it's hard to take positives out of it, but I thought Daniel Arzani again was like special. Like he just had these little moments, even for the goal to set. And Geriot, like what a strike! And sometimes I feel sorry for these players who score these amazing goals that will just automatically be forgotten because the story is now Mariners one. Like Jason Geriot scoring the winning goal for Melbourne victory would have been an incredible story. He's been such a great player for them over the years, and he's had his issues kind of with injury, and he's not known obviously for scoring goals. And to score a cracker like that, and then we could have had. What was it meant to be? We had the heist in the Hunter, and was it going to be the con in the Coast or something? Or it was some kind of thing that we came up with. But it was just going to be another kind of great story. And I think it would have been cool, I think, to see victory because of obviously kind of what they have gone through as well to win. But the story of the Mariners this season and the way that they won it, and Nisbet showing that kind of presence of mind in the 91st minute, that touch, turn, set up the goal, like really just incredible play from the guy who wins the Johnny Warren medal as well. And again, like Nisbet almost sums up the Mariners as well. Too small, considered too small for professional football, counted out, had to really prove himself over many years before he started getting recognition. And for him to kind of be one of the images of the win. And also, I'd love to know, what did you guys think of the celebrating in front of the victory fans? Because there was a little bit of like, for a second there, I was worried that Bucket 2.0 was going to happen. So I was like, okay, guys. I mean, it looks cool. We got the photo. Okay, now can we just get out the way, please? But it's I like that kind of stuff. I like when people kind of shithouse a bit, and I know victory fans don't like it, but they loved it when their players do it to in the FC or whoever else. So
they love that shit, man. Victory fans love that shit, like all the time. Like victory fans, I got a lot of victory fans seem to think I hate Melbourne Victory, which I don't understand why that is. Like there's so much about that club I love and respect, and so many of their fans I think are like. I think there's a portion of Melbourne Victory fans who are possibly the most rational, intelligent football fans in all of Australian football. And then there are some who are just so, I'm going to say, silly. And you're allowed to do that, man. You're just allowed to do that. And there were people on social media going, oh, but he did a throat-slitting gesture. And you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of the Adam Goodes saga, when Adam Goodes was pretending to throw a spear into the crowd. And some people were like, but that was aggressive. It's like, did you think that Ryan Evanson was going to come up into the stands and slit your throat? Is that what you thought was going to happen? Because not going to happen. But they were saying, why don't you go celebrate with your own fans? Well, that was the third goal. They already celebrated with him for the second goal. And they just scored in front of the end where there are no fans. Mm-hmm. And he turned around and there were you guys who were 4 bays of very loud, passionate, I would say beyond, except for the bottle throwing stuff, extremely well-behaved and great Melbourne Victory fans who added a lot of colour and atmosphere to the occasion. They were fantastic. It is what it is. Don't worry about it. Don't get so caught up in it. Like, you're allowed to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. He wasn't inciting anything. People should take their own responsibility for the things they throw onto the pitch. You can't blame someone else doing an imaginary gesture for goading you into doing it. And if your player did it, you would love it too. Did it go on for a little bit longer than I thought it probably should with the number of players who joined in as well? Maybe a little bit. It was a little bit like, but you know what? When you're a professional footballer and you've just scored the winning goal in a grand final at your own home ground, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably do some crazy stuff as well. And all those people, the other players who joined in, were probably looking at these like several thousand angry Victory fans giving him the finger and all that, and just being like, yeah, what do you reckon? And that's okay. That's okay.
Go, Joe.
So I'm totally with you. I like to see this, Vince. I'm with you. I think it's like there's nothing wrong with it. Stoll, would you like to see Courtney Perkins have gone to the Crown like this after scoring the 7 for the All Stars this week?
Again,
there's nothing wrong with it. He's celebrating in front of the fans.
Joe, he would have had to run to the other end of the pitch to do it. It would have been an Adebayor like full pitch run just to get down to the Newcastle end.
That's right.
Look, next year, A-League players, you need to do it. Do the most outrageous celebrations ever. I want to see. I mean, we talked about the one where you fake the injury and then you get the stretcher out and all that kind of the elongated fake injury celebration. I want to see that. I want to see so much. You know what? I've got to give a little bit of credit to Victory fans because I thought their march to the stadium looked amazing from what I saw on social media, and it looked like it was a really good, fun time for the Victory fans who travelled up there and saw the wonderful, beautiful Central Coast. Probably got there via the wonderful public transport that takes you there, and the epic train journey. But they made a lot of noise. They made a really great atmosphere. It's really good to see a full away end. And we talk about the importance of having a home grand final. It's just as important, I think, for the spectacle to have a full away bay, and that be such an important thing. And then, for the celebration, I think they did go nuts, but they didn't run onto the field. And we've got to say, for Victory fans, that's +1 on what has happened in the past. So we'll give a little bit of credit there. They've held their nerve, and they've managed to not overreact too much to the celebrations. But yeah, just incredible. And you know what? The Mariners as well. Like we talk about, the kind of the memes of the Mariners over the years, and like the kid with the sniper rifle on the New Year's Day game. And actually, someone did say, wouldn't it be amazing if, we talked about the Kolakovskis and these players who supported A-League teams and then now play from. Imagine if the kid with the rifle grew up to play for the Mariners and win a title. Like,
we're going to say the Army.
That would be, yeah.
Well, imagine if the guy who was wearing a Wallabies jersey and had crutches and invaded the field on crutches managed to get himself, recover from his injury, get in good shape and play for the Mariners. That would be just as amazing, I think. Or one of the Ospreys. If one of the Ospreys managed to play for the Mariners, that would be incredible.
How about the who was the guy who ran onto the pitch with? I mean, what would you call it? A kind of like
scooter,
a knee scooter. He had some issue with his leg, and he kind of had like a scooter supporting his right leg, and he was able to scoot himself on. Just shows Mariners have fantastic disabled access, allowing
our game's for everyone.
That's it. They got to take credit for allowing people with disabilities.
Very, very inclusive.
Inclusive. Get in on the pitch invasion.
Easy access to the pitch, almost too easy.
Totally. Teo?
Just on some of the silliness of the Victory fans, do you think when Popper goes in for his performance review to sing for his supper and see if he can get a contract extension, he'll mention the unconscious bias of Alex King? I mean, there was some pretty putrid narratives coming into this game, and I just want to say Alex King did a good job as the referee. He has had a good season, and I do think that the A-League could expand by maybe 5 or 6 referees. I've seen enough in the NPL to know that there are guys good enough who could probably, sneak in for a few more games. But at the pointy end of the season, I think he did an excellent job. And I think the people who think he should never referee a Victory game again, there's barking up the wrong tree. It's almost to know about the idea and the concept of unconscious bias gives away the ghost that you're smart enough to understand it, but devious enough to try to use it for nefarious means. So just be better.
What do you reckon Alex King was thinking when the pitch invasion happened?
I mean, it's after the full time.
Do you reckon he was like, it's a Mariners hand, it's okay.
Whistle. So he would have had his assistant referees run in to form the trio, then the fourth official. And I think the cameras did cut to them making their way off fairly briskly. I think security perhaps made their focus ushering the players and the referees to safety rather than trying to stop particular fans. And I mean, for all the Victory fans who are saying double standards, this, that, just remember, you've got different jurisdictions. Melbourne Victory's relationship is with the Victorian Police, and Central Coast's relationship isn't just with the New South Wales Police, it's with the Gosford New South Wales Police. Of course it's going to be different. Of course there are going to be double standards. It's literally 2 different states and 2 different police forces and 2 different stadiums with different management and different security guards. It's up to the club's relationship. If Victory, people say, would Victory have been able to have that moment? Improve the relationships and maybe you can. We are about trying to make Australian football more fun. Well, I guess there's a roadmap to making it more fun. It's a long road.
Is
that double standards? Like, yeah.
There's a contextual difference.
But people ask for fairness. Like, you literally can't get fairness out of literally 2 different police forces in 2 different states. Like, it's as simple as that.
I'd also just say, is that the first post-grand final pitch invasion that you guys can remember? I can't remember.
I think so. I think there's been another pitch invasion, though, of that nature at some point, and I'm not talking about the Christmas Derby. And I'm not talking about Buddy Franklin, although I was there for that too. Not on the pitch, but that was great. I'm not allowed to say that, am I? I think there was another one, though. There was another one, though.
These scenes are unprecedented in the rest of the world. That was the ridiculous thing. Where else would you see this? And I was like, come on, bro. But yeah, I don't know. I think I remember there was a couple in the NSL for sure.
And we're not counting like when the pitch at Leichhardt Oval fell and some people came on the ground, right? Like
involuntary. We've had a couple of involuntary pitch invasions. I don't know. Let us know in the comments if there has ever been another one. I mean, even like Socceroos and Matildas games, I can never think of you don't really see it much in national teams. There's very few even worldwide. If you think about it now,
I'm intrigued because I wasn't there, and Vince, you were working. But do you reckon word got around, and it was kind of like after the third goal, on we go, or do you think it just was spontaneous on the final whistle? Because that's probably, in terms of the law and in terms of, the people who might write the deep dive or even a book about, the Mariners' last two seasons, I feel as though those are the sort of things we'll find out about at a later date.
It looks super spontaneous to me, very much so. And in the sense that you just saw, I remember I was doing the blog and someone in the press box said like, a couple of people, or it might have been the commentary in the background saying a couple of fans were on the pitch. And you look up, and then a couple were on the pitch, and then a couple more came. And you could just see everyone's brains ticking over just a bit like, okay, enough people are on the pitch now that I can go on the pitch. That's the calculus that you're always going to come up with in terms of when you're invading the pitch. That's what it's about. It's about how adventurous am I as an individual and how many people are already there. And I'm probably the kind of guy, I'm waiting for at least 300 people, I think, to be on the pitch before I jump on. A lot of people roll differently, and that's fine. But for me, I'm let's wait and see kind of guy.
It's actually an amazing example of critical mass and how that works in human psychology. And I actually think maybe it should be studied in terms of you see all things have been dropped here.
That's someone's prize you've thrown off the desk there, Stolt.
That'll be the lock and key.
Don't worry, guys. We still have a fan. But look, is there any kind of other final thoughts on the game? I say we haven't even mentioned Miguel de Pizzo scoring the goal, the youngest ever goal scorer in any A-League NSL grand final. I mean, it is incredible. And that's also the cool thing about this. There's so many cool stories that, these things are just like, and then this happened, and then an 18-year-old scored. And again, it proves, the investing in youth and giving youth a chance. And that's something that the Mariners have done and have been rewarded for. But Vince, you were there. Is there a feeling that now the Mariners, have they entered a new dimension? They're the first team ever to do the treble. Do you think this is going to lead to a more stable support for the Mariners?
In terms of crowd or in terms of ownership?
Crowd, interest, just
corporate
general
as well.
Stability.
I think so. In terms of it was the biggest thing that's ever happened in Gosford, I'm pretty sure. I would love to know what the bigger thing than that is that's ever happened in Gosford, because it was huge. You just got the sense that the whole region was looking forward to it. And it's like, if you're a sponsor and you see scenes like that, you want to be attached to that, I think. Now, I don't think overnight they're going to suddenly become some corporate powerhouse or anything like that. But I think they're going to get a little bit more support in terms of sponsors. I think some fans as well will start to just appreciate them a little bit more, maybe in terms of people on the Central Coast maybe don't take for granted the fact that this thing is happening in your backyard, maybe get involved. That said, per capita, their crowds are already probably better than they should be, I'm pretty sure. But it does feel like a moment where it's like, all right, the Mariners are not just a club and they're not just going to be around for a little while anymore, but hey, this is a serious football club. This is actually a great club. And I don't know what that looks like for their future, but I'm pretty sure can't get worse, can it? I mean, I know this is Australian football, but
No, because just like whenever I see these moments, and a lot of people are saying, Owen says via YouTube, I was part of the pitch invasion, definitely spontaneous. As soon as there were 50 people on the pitch, I was on. He only waited for 50. I like it. Let us know in the comments. Did you wait less than 50? Did someone go under 50? That's what I want to know.
First?
See, yeah,
patient zero of the pitch invasion.
Who was Neil Armstrong? One small step for man, one giant step for the Mariners. Whenever I see these kind of moments, and I you see all the young kids in the crowd, and you just hope that maybe this moment, maybe this season has created an extra 1,000, 2,000 Mariners fans who are going to go every week and are going to be obsessed by this team and are going to, because they will inevitably, over the years go through some low points as well. And, these fans are going to feel that as well. And they're going to feel it as much as they feel the success. And you just that's kind of my big hope is from these games that these are memories that kind of last forever.
Well, I think the real strength is that fans are going to have to get far more used to the idea of cheering for the shirt, because as much as Nisbet has been one of the, continuous, presences, the Mariners turned over their squad to such an extent and may do it again to such an extent that the badge, the shirt, the ground is going to have to be what people go for, because I think the players will be fleeting, and I don't think it will necessarily be a bad thing, because, as we know, the transfer market generates probably more clicks and interest in the game than the actual games themselves. So to be a perpetually selling club in a perpetually selling league, ironically, might actually drive up the level of interest, especially in young people in the A-League.
Yeah, just stole what you're saying there, 100%, because imagine if you're like a 10-year-old kid, you run onto the pitch after your team wins the treble, and I read some people high five Danny Vukovic in the midst of and it's like, imagine you're a 10-year-old kid, you run on the pitch, you high five your captain after you win the treble. You will live 80 more years in your life if you're lucky and never do anything that cool again. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that not just you live with, but you tell all your mates about and everything. So I think hopefully there's going to be a snowball effect in terms of that, and hopefully a lot more rusted on support for the Mariners.
Well, I think the one thing they have in their favor, is they're an incredibly well-coached team. So if they do flip the team, they started poorly this season, and look where they've come. But I've also wondered after this game, 4 goals in the game, has there been a better collection of 4 goals or a collection of goals in a grand final than this? The Guerrier banger, that's a forgotten goal, stole.
Yes.
The turn from Nisbet's a bit more of a classy goal. Miguel taken to Pizio. What a finish.
And also great build-up as well.
Great build-up.
Yeah, that was a good move.
Beautiful
Edmondson,
cross.
Well, you forget that Nisbet was free in the middle, and he curled that into perfection. You never know if there was a few extra seconds. If the keeper catches that they go up the other end, you don't know. But to finish that chance was really classy. I think it was a pretty good collection of goals in a grand final.
The thing that still strikes me is some clubs and some coaches and some administrations in this league would have thrown the towel in after selling Tulio. And he feels like ancient history in the context of the season, and yet look at how they have continued on.
Well, this was my whole thing. I spoke about it a few weeks ago, but this whole idea of as soon as they won last year, and we lost Cummings. Oh, we lost Silvera. Oh, we lost all these, great players. Garang Kuo. How can we possibly? Oh, we have to go to Asia. How could we possibly compete on all these fronts? There would be so many people in Australian football who in the past would have made those excuses. And the Mariners have just blasted all those away, which is such a good thing, I think, for the game long term.
There's another player that they lost just before the finals as well that we won't mention, but pretty important to their season. And look how they've come.
We all know what happened there, and less said about him, the better. Owen says, my 4 friends who I bought the grand final are all buying season tickets. If that's a measure, the Central Coast is basically filling with young families who can't afford Sydney anymore. Yeah, that's true, and the demographics of that is actually going to be super interesting, because I actually know a lot of people who moved from Sydney who probably are football fans. There are a lot of football fans in Sydney to the Central Coast, maybe will adopt the Central Coast as their team, and which would be great to see. And, just talking about kind of the young kids, I always think 2005 was such a pivotal moment for so many kind of Australian football fans, kind of also around our age, right? And I think probably most of us would have already been into football, but you saw a massive kind of spike. But that spike was based on the Socceroos, and I think it's good if these spikes happen based on teams that play every week, because I think the Socceroos still, maybe the crowds aren't amazing for the Socceroos every time they come here, but whenever Socceroos are playing in a big tournament, World Cup, the ratings are massive. We get unbelievable live sites, all that type of thing. We've just seen it happen with the Matildas, with the World Cup. Now, every time the Matildas play, it's going to be a big event, and there's huge fans around it. If it can happen at club level and people can go every week, and that's, I think, so much more an important kind of fan experience as a young kid, to have something that you can engage with on a regular basis, and for the health of the league. Because I think, and we talk about this a bit, Australian football is massive in short bursts, in moments, in when the interest in football is huge, but not every week. And hopefully that changes.
Do you think if 2005 happened today, that there'd be a pitch invasion?
Well, that's a great question.
I think there should be.
I think so.
I think there would be.
I think if you have a time machine, and I know a lot of people listen to this show, so probably it's bound to like 1 in 15 million is going to have a time machine. Yep.
We're talking about time again.
Honestly, as someone who was there in the crowd, people were too busy hugging. Just too busy hugging to worry about running anywhere. Like, I was just mobbed by the 5 people I was there with. It was just a group hug.
Go back in time, in the time machine, and
tell some people about pitch invasions, because I feel like pitch invasions back then weren't as high on people's minds as they are now these days in football. I don't know. So if anyone has the time machine, go to the game and just during the shootout, go around the ground and just go to real loud, next to it was pitch invasion. You got another pitch invasion, and just see what happens. Yeah.
One thing that did happen on the first 3 kicks of the shootout, Adam Spencer, who was the ground announcer, was actually updating the score.
Was Adam Spencer the ground announcer?
Spencer. He was updating the score after the first 3 kicks, and I think even the tension, that's not the done thing during a penalty shootout for starters, but the tension of the moment meant that he stopped doing it after the first 3 kicks as well.
So he was kind of announcing the score of the penalty shootout?
He was like, yes, a penalty scored by Alvaro Recoba. It is Australia 1, Uruguay 1.
A basketball kind of, number 20. Foul.
Diego Lugano from downtown.
That's very Australia in the 2000s behaviour there. So we don't quite get football, but we want to get around it.
No, but I did work experience with Adam Spencer back in the day at ABC Radio Sydney, and had a great time. He's a massive football fan and lives on the Central Coast, I believe. So who knows? He was there on. Maybe we've come full circle. Are there any final thoughts on the match, on the final, on the Mariners? Any final things that we want to say about this season, about fun?
Well, I'll
go to you first.
With Vince here, I have some quick fire questions about the A-League off season, because we will have another MAFFS or a few, I'm sure.
But just before that, any final thoughts on this match? Anyone got final thoughts on this match? No, we can move on. We'll move on.
Just one last thing, which is just that you live by the popper ball, you die by the popper ball. It almost got him there, but he took off Arzani and Fornaroli, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And as soon as you concede in that situation, you're cooked. So. Yeah. It is what it is. I feel for him a little bit, to be honest.
Ross Lyon
made the point that they drew every single game of the finals. So the game that went to penalties was the elimination final. Then they obviously played against Wellington, and that game went to extra time after they'd drawn the first leg, if I'm not mistaken. And then the final, of course. So, Melbourne drawing. But that is very much the popper ball experience. And it will be interesting to see if he's there next season. Because which is
the segue into my quickfire questions for Vince primarily, because there's no guarantee we'll have Vince available to us again before these questions get resolved. Vince, will Popper stay on? And if not, who's the manager of Melbourne Victory in round 1 of next season?
By the way, you raise questions about my availability as if every Monday I'm not just looking at my phone, just so lazy, just being like, oh, should I? CBF, like I'm booked or something. What do you think I am?
I'm trying to
anyway,
talk.
what was the question?
You may not be an international man of mystery, but at the very least, you are an interstate man of mystery.
I'm not even a special guest. Anyway, what was the question?
Popper, stay or go? And if he goes, who's coaching Victory in round 1 next season?
Go, Mark Milligan.
Who is coaching Perth Glory in round 1 of next season?
Quickfire.
Perth fans are getting very restless about how dead quiet their club has been ever since full time of their final game.
Surely it's
Stripper.
Reedy's getting it. Reedy's getting a gig.
Yeah. Popper,
Davis
mate.
Village.
And then my other question is, who coaches the Western Sydney Wanderers in round 1 of next season?
Stadge.
Oh, I think there's a not insignificant subsection of Wanderers fans that are in the tank for Stadge, but I feel as though whoever just brings the most people through the gate and gets non-derby games up to something, that is what the club needs, because no matter what they try, there are few at the moment experiences in the A-League that need more than a non-derby Wanderers home game.
100%. But who I think they should go for is Monty and Serge, because if they can bring their magic formula that worked in the Mariners, obviously they set something up there, to Western Sydney, which is the biggest and most important junior nursery in all of Australian football, that would be good for the club and for all of Australian football. But apparently, Monty and Eddie Bosnar are not the best of mates, so it probably won't happen, allegedly.
Wait, Bosnar, who does he even work at the Wanderers? Wasn't that the whole thing that he didn't work for the Wanderers?
Apparently not. But,
He's the letterer whisperer.
Yeah.
I hear there's a really good documentary. Yeah.
Being mates with a billionaire, I would suggest, is an excellent job.
If anything goes bad,
you have to whisper quite loud these days, but that's another story.
Yeah. If anything goes bad, you can just be like, I don't even work there. I just tell this guy who we should hire, and apparently some money comes into my account every now and then. So it's all good.
As someone who was formerly speculated to be a billionaire, and that speculation was put to bed, I mean, did you have anyone who was trying to become your confidant, your whisperer at that time?
No.
Just on that.
No, there's no cash here, mate.
Yeah, no cash.
You've had quite a lot of memes made about you over the years. So there was the doctor one, there was the billionaire one, which I did feel like I kind of started, and then it got a bit out of control. So sorry about that.
That's all right. I had some real issues at tax time last year because of that, but that's fine.
There was the you obviously write for the Sydney papers. You basically had a diss track about it. Forget Kendrick and Drake.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you had a
and I didn't respond.
No, but I think it was the smart move, because it was like if it was basically like if I wrote a diss track about Kendrick, he shouldn't really respond to that. Like, I'm a bit beneath his level. With all respect to, I can't remember that guy's name, but it was. Has there been any more? Has there been any more where you've kind of captured? You have this ability to capture the kind of the cultural imagination.
Doesn't say a lot about Australian football, does it? But I would say Evan Morgan Graham. Whenever there's a borderline Sharon violation, Evan Morgan Graham pops up with something which obviously is like a Microsoft computer panel which says error. And he insists on using some sort of graphic of me in which I don't have a beard. So my beard is gone, and it just looked like there's a reason why I have a beard. It's because no one needs to know sort of what's going on underneath there. Yeah. It's a bad thing when it's not there. And he just insists on the beardless me. So that's a bit cooked, in my opinion. But anyway.
Look, we'll run through quickly some of the comments that we got in pre-show from Twitter. Joseph Ciccone, what made Australian football fun? Residents mostly excited and intrigued, lining the streets when Victory's away contingent march to the stadium. Really shows how special football is and how big of an event it was in Gosford. Yeah, it was massive. It was fun. I mean, I don't know how much it made headlines in Australia, and at times I kind of think that's a bit overrated. as long as everyone's having fun and having a good time, you'll likely want to continue doing that. But that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of speculation on who was the guest going to be. Someone asked Oscar Arnie coming on to defend, inevitably picking Gethin Jones over Irankunda on the right wing. But Vince, you're pretty certain Irankunda's in. Gethin Jones, do we know what's happening with Gethin Jones?
No, I don't know what's going on with Gethin Jones.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
All the Bolton supporters, I'm going to speak on my behalf. I don't care what's happening with
that's what I mean. Like, am I asking questions in my spare time about Gethin Jones? Do you think, Stop?
I don't know. I mean, Vince, you move in mysterious ways.
Not that mysterious. So in some ways, I'm very straightforward, and this is one of them.
Oh god! You know what'd be amazing if when they named the Socceroos squad, if one journo just went, who's this guy? Like what? No, who? What? Honey, what? Who? Who's this one? So really, really interesting. When is that squad announced? One of those games.
Wednesday.
Wednesday announcement. Okay, look out for that. When are the games as well?
In the future.
Yeah. Good. Pitch invasion. Let's make it happen. First goal against Palestine. Just straight on there. Is Nathan Jones asked, is the next evolution of the sauce bottle a sauce bottle in a moon boot on a scooter? Yeah, maybe we need to.
Oh, that's good.
Maybe they need to be like mini sauce bottles around the thing, representing all the different types of Mariners moments. And you pointed out, Vince, that might be the most iconic sponsor team relationship in Australian sport. Would you say? Does any team have such a close? Masterfoods. What a masterful decision that was. I would
suggest the Sydney Swans and QBE only because that's I'm pretty sure that's the longest running sponsorship in Australian sport, aside from maybe Geelong and Ford, which is the other one.
Yep.
But I think the Mariners and Masterfoods is now in that conversation with those two and however many others we can think of.
Joe, can you think of any other team sponsor relationships in Australian football, in Australian sport?
I mean, Brisbane and the Coffee Club didn't go for quite as long, did it? But we all wish it would. I mean, what a partnership that was. No, I don't think so. Tell you, how long have Hawks been with Tasmania? It hasn't been that long, but it's been a while now.
I kind of equate Hawthorn's relationship with Tasmania to a bit like the Belgians in the Congo. We went down there, we took their money and their resources. And we didn't really, to be honest, we didn't leave it a better place than how we found it, let's be honest. But they kept Hawthorn alive for 20 years. So thanks, Tasmania, and they are long overdue for their own team.
Jim Maloney via Twitter says, getting in now. What made football fun for me this week was getting to explain to my kids why people were holding toilet seats in the crowd and then them spending the first half trying to spot them. And also planning on what toilet seat we would take if Brisbane make the grand final again. Yeah, look, hopefully remontada for Brisbane Roar Salona is to come in the following years. But again, the toilet seat, the A-League is, 20 years old next year? Is that correct? A-League men's 20 years old next season. And there's a lot of talk about, the league folding and blah, blah, and the issues it has. And look, I have no idea about the financial situation of it. I know it's not great, but maybe it's not as bad as people say. I have no idea. But the point is that, I know that it was bad that they got rid of a lot of kind of the NSL's history when they created the A-League, but the A-League itself now has a lot of history, and things like the toilet seat and the sauce bottles and a lot of them, it's a bit mini, but it's also fun and it's also great. And it's kind of, I think now you started to see it year after year of this is our league, and there's always this, we need to compare it to, is it as good as League One in England? Is it maybe even as good as the Championship? I don't care at all. And let's just make it as fun as possible and enjoy it for what it is. And if that's toilet seats and sauce bottles and pitch invasion.
Honestly, I think we've had a very good week of shitting on and ridiculing both the Euro snobs and also mainstream media that doesn't respect the league. Instead of trying to win these people over, flying them to World Cups as VIPs or, bending over backwards to accommodate their casual eyeballs. Yeah. We've actually just we've raised our middle finger to them and said, we're proud of what we do and we're not going to stop you talking shit about it.
Yeah, and hey, there's a million ways to improve it as we come up with all the ideas on this show. But I do really love where it is. Simon says the literal toilet seats in the crowd is my favorite grand final tradition. And Edmund Our Young makes a good point. The Australian Olympic swim team and the richest woman in the country was quite a relationship. So yes, it's true. We could use some of the cash, if she wants to fund the team. But yeah, look,
mystery guest next week, perhaps.
Yeah, but it's just her painting instead.
Again, somehow far less controversial than some of the mystery guests we had suggested to us in the Twitter comments this week.
Let's not go there. Thank you very much. Look, is there anywhere you'd like to go as we wrap this up? Taya, anything you'd like to plug? Any final sign-offs?
Yes, it is half time in the game between Preston and Melbourne Victory. That's the only goal of the game so far. Preston with a 1-0 lead. Josh Parrish is behind the microphone. It's over on the Preston Facebook. So once we're done here, go and enjoy Josh's commentary for the second half.
Blake Hampton 11 says best league in the world, best show in the world. Yes, look, it's been the first season of MAFFS, and it all started back when we were talking about the Anzac ashtray, was it?
The football ashtray. That's right. Yeah, that's it.
Between the Australia and New Zealand, we were already coming up with ideas. That was a special moment. Maslawonga was playing. It was an exciting time. But Joe, it's been a good first season, don't you think?
It's not over yet, but I think it's come a long way. I mean, look at. I think then a good example of how we've grown is look at Sidelines Parish. Look how much he's accomplished this year, and I think MAFFS has really been the sounding board for all of that. We've got Vince on the show tonight. I don't know what's happening with Gethin Jones, but it's very exciting.
No one cares. No one knows.
Oz Screamer, and hell of a name, won't ask any more questions. Only first season. Glad I found it 2 weeks ago. Why don't you treat yourself and binge the series? Go back in time.
It's best consumed. It's best binged. It's that kind of show, I think. Some shows you want to listen week by week. I feel like this one is a good one to wait till the whole season's over and just listen to it in one sitting.
You know what? Some characters do get killed off. R.I.P. Nick DeBano. But it's maybe he comes back. Maybe there's a remontada.
Oh, maybe.
Nick DeVano is still out there. You can catch him on the MPL Victoria pod. Check that out. Also known as the Make Victorian Football Fun show.
Sister podcast.
There's a lot going on. Simon Vin says, watch the others on 1.5 speed. Yeah, it's a good thing. Look, any final things to say, Vince? Any final things to plug? Anything to look out for?
Nothing really to plug. I just wanted to, come clean and say I've really dialed in the last 2/3 of this episode because I haven't been able to get the thought of Wogs versus Skips All-Stars out of my mind. I think that would be so sick and the funniest thing ever.
Okay, because it is 2024, probably the marketing's going to have to. We can't really go Wogs v Skips, right?
Well, there's no point doing it.
No, but what do we like? We can rebrand it. We just need to call it someone else, like.
There's no point doing it if we're not going to. Yeah. Well, let's just, let's reclaim
olive oil versus butter or something.
Just get Sushi Mango to come along and host the night. Everything will be fine.
This is a classic example of you being one of the woke podcasts.
Yeah. You would have been able to do Wogs versus Skips in the NSL, but you can't anymore because of woke.
Well, you would have had a lack of Skips back in the NSL. They would have been like the Newcastle United team that played the All-Stars.
I wonder if any of the Wogs will look at the Skips who haven't been selected and wondering, could we naturalize them and get them in?
Yeah.
It is possible. It is possible. Have you heard Matty Ryan's accent? It is possible to naturalize a Skip.
You can do a good one, Matty.
Look, I'm worried about what the potential comments are, but let us know your way to rebrand Wogs v Skips. Let us know. Try and keep it low. That's the goal. The goal is to actually make this a thing. All right. So don't be saying anything crazy. All right. Here we go. Diaspora versus the Fair Dinkum lot. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. We're working on that. Annoy Moose. Oh, anonymous. Sorry. I'm a bit dumb when it comes to reading out names. French. Oh my God. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure bringing you the show this season. We're gonna do some off-season content. We're gonna do some MAFFS. I think we're gonna do an award show.
We've got the Matildas in the Olympics. We've got Australia Cup will be back before you know it. Socceroos games. And hey, if any big NST news drops, we've kind of got the right guys to have not a totally serious podcast, but semi-serious podcast about it. So yeah.
Yeah, all right. So keep an eye out. Many things happening in the off-season. Teo Pellizzeri, it's been a pleasure. Joe Simon, it's been a pleasure. Vince Rigari, thank you so much. Unfortunately, our special guest couldn't be here tonight. We ran out of time for Matt Damon, but we will see you next week. Maybe follow us on all the things. You'll see. We'll put it out maybe 2 minutes before we actually go live. But thanks so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure this season. We'll see you next year.